Warning, F-bombs are armed and ready to drop. Okay. It cannot be denied that the U.S. has an illegal immigration problem. I have an interesting solution. Let's annex Mexico. Okay, so it's not as simple as just saying, let's annex Mexico, right? It's a lot of little pieces that got to fit together. The Mexican federal government has to agree to let these Mexican states vote to enter the United States. Then the Mexican states have to vote to enter the United States, and then the United States has to vote to let them in. A little bit complicated. We're talking 6 months, maybe a year. But that's it. All right, so what are the disadvantages? Well, Mexico is kind of a poorer country. All right, it's not anywhere near the poorest country. It could easily be rebuilt. But that would take time. All right, and that would take a lot of investment. Okay. Corruption in Mexico is horrific. Right? If a U.S. state was as corrupt as any one Mexican state, the army would have been sent in years ago. And to underscore the point, every so often the Mexican government sends their army in. Actually, no, most recently they sent the Navy in because they were concerned about security with the army. So there's that. Turning around to get the better light. Okay. So there are a couple of real and legitimate concerns, complaints, worries. But that's it. We could root out all that corruption in a year. It might require some truth and reconciliation commissions, which means you come in, you tell everything you did, you confess to all of your crimes, and you're given a pass. Yeah. And we might have to let some bad guys walk away to make it work. The corrupting influences, and I'm talking about the cartels, we would have to remove them. And a lot of them have firepower that is extremely impressive. We'd have to send the army after them to get them out of their little fortresses. Okay, we'll shell them out, no problem. You know, feel the Burt, Luke, right? There's a lot of infrastructure problems, but we could fix those. We really could. U.S. businesses could expand into Mexico because they're not expanding into Mexico, they're expanding into the Mexican states. They're not crossing national boundaries, they're crossing state boundaries now. What are the other legitimate issues? There's been a couple of people that have said Spanish is the official language of Mexico. Well, actually, it's not. It is the overwhelmingly predominant language of Mexico, but that's not really an issue. Just leave the Mexican television stations right as they are, Mexican radio stations right as they are, Mexican newspapers right as they are. They're all speaking Spanish already. No reason to change that. There's really not. There is one thing that it would prove to be an interesting conundrum. Donnie's Wall. Okay. As things sit right now, I actually do support Donnie's Wall. We're buying a big piece of infrastructure with a very real probability that future administrations will not support it the way it needs to be. And every 20 years or so, we'd have to maybe rebuild huge parts of it. And that is my concern. But if we annex Mexico, we also annex their border. We could build that big, beautiful wall along Mexico's southern border, not along the U.S.-Mexican border. Instead, move it, I think it's 2,500 miles south. It's about 500 miles across. All of that wall material down on 500 miles rather than, 2,000-ish miles? That's a big ass wall. All right, so think about it. All right, don't say no just because you don't like the idea. Think about it.